Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nature Source Care. My name is Dr. Funda Goldman. I'm a naturopathic physician, and today I was going to talk about the medicinal benefits of rose, or Rosa damascena. And this is part of the kitchen pharmacy series, so this is actually like an internal use of rose, which some people might be familiar with, but others may not. So let's go through and see what we got here. Note beforehand, the information presented here is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. For any symptoms that persist or worsen, please consult with a qualified medical professional. It is always best to determine the root cause of any disease and to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. And while botanical medicine or nutritional remedies, sorry, nutritional remedies can be very effective. They may not be appropriate for everyone as a single therapy. And keep in mind, the two most common side effects of any plant-based medicine are digestive upset and skin itching. So if either of those occurs, you probably want to stop if you're trying something out. Okay, so similar content to this, if you're interested in herbal medicine, nutrition, and of foods and stuff like that, on a whole food level. There's similar content in my botanical medicine, nutrition, and kitchen pharmacy playlists, so they can be found there. And the information presented here in this talk is based on my book, Drink to Your Health. Excuse me. Medicinal teas, juices, and milks from around the world. And if you're ever interested, you can pick up a copy of that on Amazon. And the reason why I wrote the book primarily was because it integrates nutrition information from different paradigms of medicine. I found that finding integrative medicine nutrition books is kind of tough, actually. So my book integrates Ayurveda, traditional Indian medicine, naturopathic medicine, or traditional natural medicine, and then Western modern paradigms of medicine. So yeah, so that's out there. And then also, basically all the playlists on my channel are basically different courses in natural medicine. So if any of these topics are interesting to you and you want to dive deeper, I have playlists on Ayurveda, traditional Indian medicine, Marma therapy, which is Ayurvedic acupressure, and I've taught all 117 points, so the whole course is out there for you. Yoga and meditation, I've been a yoga teacher for about 20 years now. Homeopathy, so it's an energetic medicine paradigm. Bach flower remedies, which are a subset of homeopathy, and I've done most of the Bach flowers by now. I think I only have like 8 left. Nutrition, which as a naturopath, we usually consider nutrition to be the first medicine to give people. Botanical medicine, hydrotherapy, therapeutic use of water, body care, so, different sort of body care techniques. And then I have a cleansing playlist. And the cleansing, most people, when they think of cleansing, they think of maybe specific organs like liver, kidney, or something. But the cleansing playlist I have actually includes not just physical cleansing, but mental, emotional, and spiritual cleansing as well. So lots to learn if you're interested in any of this stuff. Okay, so let's talk about rose. A Rosa damascena. Parts or methods used for this, and specifically I'm talking about teas here. There are other, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, different ways to use rose. Like some people will use it topically as an essential oil or as a scent, and there are different properties there, but I'm talking about internal use of rose. So the parts used are the flowers, and the method used is an infusion method. So it's a very light kind of cooking method to extract the properties. And if you don't know about different ways to create teas like infusion, decoctions, sun, moon teas, and all this kind of stuff, I would check out my video, Different Methods for Making Medicinal Teas, so you learn about the different ways of using cooking teas, because sometimes the methods can be too light and you won't extract all the properties from the plant, and sometimes they can be too harsh and you can kind of destroy the properties of the plant. So okay, so from an Ayurvedic point of view, which again is traditional Indian medicine, Ayurveda is a very energetic paradigm of medicine. And so, what's nice about rose as a plant is that it's considered tridoshic, meaning that it balances vata, pitta, and kapha. So, vata is a wind energy, which is kind of cold and dry. You can think about it very simply that way. Pitta is a fire energy, so it's a hot energy. And then kapha is earth or cold and wet. So we have cold and dry, hot, and then cold and wet. And again, rose is nice because it balances these. Also, in terms of the more specific energetics, again, if you're a deeper student of Ayurveda, this will be helpful. And if you're not, then don't worry about it. But the flavor, taste of rose is 4 of the 6 tastes in Ayurveda. So pungent, bitter, astringent, and sweet. It's a cooling herb. So as we'll see in the different conditions that it helps, most of these are like inflammatory in nature. And then it's also sweet. So it has this kind of building quality to it. Okay. So let's go through the different systems here, medical systems, and then we'll see how rose can help out. So for the nervous system, nervous depression, this can be like somebody who's just so stressed all the time that they start to kind of get fatigued or poop out or wear out or that sort of thing. It's typically more of feelings of overwhelm and being scattered and stuff like that, where they kind of just get a little bit paralyzed. So it's not the kind of depression where there's like just a heavy, because they're different. They actually categorize depression differently in Ayurveda, depending on whether it's more of a Vata or a Wind type of depression, a Pitta depression, or a Kapha type depression. So nervous depression here, we're talking about a Vata type depression. So this is somebody who's just so scattered and so overwhelmed and so all over the place that they just kind of, implode. You can kind of think of it that way. And they get so ungrounded, they can't kind of traction again to move forward. And other parts of the nervous system or symptoms of the nervous system, anxiety. So again, that's Vata typically. Agitation, which is usually more of a Pitta type condition. So, Vata, Pitta. Eye inflammation. So again, like I was saying, this is a cooling herb. Eye inflammation you could use here. And then headaches, because most headaches, there are different types of headaches, but most headaches are considered to be a Pitta or fire type of headache. Then for the cardiovascular system, rose is considered to be a tonifier for the heart. So any kind of like cardiovascular disease involving the heart, rose can potentially be helpful. Gastrointestinal symptoms, so it stimulates digestion. And again, sore throat, reflux, ulcers, diarrhea. So from an Ayurvedic point of view, all of these sore throat, reflux, ulcers, diarrhea are all indications of too much pitta or too much fire. Okay. Then for the skin, so again, you can see these are all hot and inflamed type skin things. So inflamed skin generally, acne, rosacea, hives. So with acne, we're talking about the more kind of red erythematous type of acne. If it's like deep cystic acne, which is not so red, but it's like congestion. You can see it's like congestion of the skin, the cysts are forming. And that's usually a little bit more of a kapha type of acne. So the rose may not be quite as helpful in that case. But if the acne is popping up because the skin's too dry or too inflamed, then the rose can be helpful potentially. For men, actually, rose increases semen. So if there's some issues there in terms of fertility, rose can be helpful. For women, excessive menstrual bleeding. So excessive menstrual bleeding typically is associated with too much pitta, too much fire. Lack of menses. Generally, for lack of menses, we're talking about too much vata. So again, too much wind. Infections, there's usually a pitta element, a fire element involved with infections because there's inflammation. Painful menses, so whether this is inflammation or whether it's cramping, inflammation is going to be high pitta and the cramping is going to be high vata, either way. Clots in general, usually that's a sign of too much vata. Endometriosis, so usually the tissue is hot and dry. So again, vata, pitta type tissue in the uterus. Fibroids, the fibroids typically are pitta kapha. But it's the pitta that's causes the bleeding the pitta that causes the fibroids to bleed and that sort of thing, cause pain. So rose can be helpful there. Again, I wouldn't do rose by itself. I would never think that would be enough to deal with fibroids because you have to do some hormonal balancing stuff, possibly some cleansing and that sort of thing. But as part of a treatment plan, rose can be helpful. Hormonal irritation. So, this can be like moods and stuff like that, like PMS, libido. Because again, most people, when they have libido issues and they're not feeling, so randy, I guess, that's usually because they're working too hard and pushing too hard and worried too much and stuff like that. So their energy is more scattered typically, and they're more trying to, create things in the material world. And then the thing is that leaves their internal core less supported. And so, when people get too active and less, focused and grounded and, giving themselves time to relax and stuff like that. So that can be there. Fertility, again, especially if the fertility is related to, a female hormonal system or a tissue system that's hot and dry. This can be helpful. And then hot flashes, again, that's usually a condition of too much pitta. So generally, in addition to the things I've just talked about, on a more kind of energetic, again, spiritual level, rose is associated with the heart or the fourth chakra. And the fourth chakra promotes, when it's in balance, promotes things like patience and compassion and love, which, is sort of the general symbol of rose, even for like Valentine's Day and stuff like that. So if there are issues there, rose can be helpful on that level as well, not just kind of the physical level, but emotional, spiritual level. And then also other ways to kind of use rose internally, which are fairly common. I mean, at least in Asia, I haven't seen these too much in North America or Europe, but I've seen this. Rose is used a lot for flavorings of things in like the Middle East, and like when I was in China, I went somewhere and they gave us rose tea, rosebud tea, and then when I was in India, there was a lot of flavorings by rose and stuff. So I think it's more of an Asian type thing, but so rose water drops, this is a little bit different. Usually rose water drops are pretty concentrated, and it's almost, I would see it's almost like a Bach flower, I would say, because there's usually not much physical substance of the rose left. But the other thing is that the rose water is usually concocted in a way where it's really, really super fragrant. So you only need like a drop or two to provide flavoring or scent to food. So that's quite a bit different. I don't know how much the rosewater drops would help with physical level. Because typically, if you're making a tea from rose, rose petals, to get these sorts of things back in order, you would need like 1 or 2 cups a day. And then sometimes too, crushed petals can be used for flavoring. So, like one simple recipe that comes to mind is if you grate one sweet apple and you put just a little bit of cardamom powder in it, and you put just a little sprinkle of crushed rose leaves and maybe like a little bit of honey. It's a very simple salad, or even dessert. Some might find it to be more of a dessert type thing. But the apple and the rose and the cardamom and the honey, all those foods together, those are all foods that really help support the heart. So it's a refreshing and nice flavor for sure. But again, especially when we're talking about feeling love and feeling supported, and whether it's specific person or just by life in general, this is what rose can help with. um, Also rose, as I mentioned, when I was in China, I have made tea myself, and I had it in China where like rosebuds. And the thing is, you want to make sure that you get food grade, you know rose, okay, because usually there are only certain species of rose that are a little bit more wild. That's important to know. So I wouldn't just go grab like um, rose petals out of your yard, potentially, especially if you have hybrid varieties or more modern varieties or commercial varieties, especially if they're not, grown organically. But they're usually specific rose plants that are, again, more wild or, you know, not as commercially derived, that usually are the ones that are used for these internal uses of tea. Um, but the other way is, besides, making tea just from the petals by itself and just tea by itself, rose, what I like to do is I actually add a little bit of rose, a few rose petals to black tea. I'm more of a black tea person on the daily. So if I add in, 1-to-3 ratio of rose to black tea, or 1-to-4 ratio, depending on how strong the petals are and kind of my mood, frankly. That's nice because the rose kind of flavors the black tea in a way where it's not too rosy. Because sometimes, again, if most people are not used to ingesting rose, they might say like, "Oh, this like tastes like soap or something," because they're just used to rose in like cosmetics typically. Um, yeah, or like in a vase or something like that. So, yeah, that's another way again to, either make rose tea by itself or get paired with black tea. It goes pretty well with black tea. Um, so cautions here, because you can see there's a lot of support here with the female fertility and sexual system here. So I would only use low doses in pregnancy, like maybe 1 cup a day. And then if there's high kapha or congestion, like maybe a sinus congestion or lung congestion or something like that, I probably wouldn't lean too heavily on rose, because if rose is done in excess, then even though it's a tridoshic plant, over time you might develop a little bit of high kapha. So just as a cautionary thing, it's usually not too big of a deal. But there you go. Okay, so again, all the information on the internal uses and therapeutic properties of rose are based on my book, Drink to Your Health, Medicinal Teas, Cheeses, and Milks from Around the World. You can always pick up a copy on Amazon if you're interested in that. I do have another YouTube channel on Vedic astrology, so ancient Indian astrology. The name of that channel is Light Vedic Astrology, if that's of interest to you. And then most of the photography in my videos are my own photos. I have an online photography gallery and gift shop, so if you're ever looking for interesting art for yourself or somebody else, you can go there and look and see if something, inspires you. All right, so as always, thanks for stopping by, listening to one of my talks. I appreciate all your support for my work and the channel. And until the next one, take care. Namaste.